we have Mr. Kyle Stark who's going to talk for us. Mr. Stark, former Pittsburgh Pirates VP and assistant GM, Mr. Stark was instrumental in getting Evan drafted by the Pirates. Mr. Stark graduated from Ball State University and received his doctorate of law degree from the University of Toledo and his master's in business administration at St. Bonaventure University. He went on to start his coaching career as an assistant coach and worked in the front offices of the Cleveland Indians. Moved his way eventually to being the VP of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mr. Stark now is the CEO of his own company, Stark Contrast, where he consults coaches and leaders and has a passion to see others grow in their leadership. So please give it up for Mr. Stark.
I don't know about following Amazing Grace there. I joke with my wife, we had the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit invocation. Started off good there, so humble to be here. I think the first thing I just want to do, and a number of people have done already, is honor the chambers. Before I honor Evan, at Pittsburgh, our goal was to turn boys and men to develop championship men, and Evan showed up championship men, and that's a testament to you guys. So I'll fast forward. My first interaction with Evan, we had the pre-draft workout at Steve Play, but we were in our draft meetings, and every time we would talk about Evan, Bill DeJoy, who's a legend in baseball, former GM of the Tigers, scouting director, crusty, salty old man, but loved people. If he knew you cared about you, he loved Evan. And so every time we talk about Evan, he'd steal the show and talk about bang the table about how we need to draft Evan. And so we get to the first round of the draft, we don't take Evan. Second round, we don't take Evan. And Bill stands up in the back of the room, slams his pen down, drops a few expletives, and walks out of the room. Fortunate for our scouting director, he was still there in the third round when we took Evan. And I'll never forget thinking to myself, okay, what is it about Evan Chambers that made somebody react that way? And yes, he was skilled. You love the stories about the home runs, but there was something about Evan Chambers that stood out. And so I want to share just kind of three attributes that stood out to me, spending time with them, that I think actually adds some depth to this idea as we talk about love. So the first thing you notice about Evan when you first see him was a strong man. I mean, he was physically strong. Looked like he probably should have been maybe playing football at times, and but just that physical strength always stood out. The more you got to know Evan, it wasn't the physical strength that stood out. It was the emotional strength, mental strength, ultimate spiritual strength that anchored who he was. And it showed up in the tools on the field as well. You talked about the power, but there was a strong sense of discipline at the plate. In fact, there were a number of times we're like, hey, let's go, let it go. And we had some different coaches that wanted to see some more of that side come out of Evan. But the thing that stood out for me with Evan was Evan knew who he was. He wasn't going to veer out of that. And there was that sense of discipline as well as that strength. And many of you probably heard the term about meekness, not being weakness, but actually strength under control. Evan exhibited that all the time. There was a strength about him that was always under control. We talk about love and the outpouring of love. There's also an element of restraint and discipline and control that Evan showed, the discipline that he showed all the time. I think a lot of times we talk about love, we talk about intensity, the consistency of Evan Chambers showed up all the time because of that discipline. So that's the first thing that stood out about Evan. Second thing that stood out about Evan, to get closer to him, is the smile. And I had told Heather, my wife, as we were driving over about Evan's smile, and first picture she sees, stands out. And even when it was just that little grin, I love the dancing eyes comment. Even just the grin just stood out for him. The cool thing about Evan was it didn't matter what was going on, it didn't matter what circumstances, it didn't matter how good things were, that smile showed up. That smile wasn't skin deep, it wasn't surface deep, that came from the soul. There's a sense of joy about that and how he went about things. And even, in his short career, had some lows as well. Health challenges, some stretches where he didn't perform the way he wanted to. But that joy always showed up. And even when he would get down and start struggling, we were able to have a conversation and talk about, hey, who are you as a man? What anchors you? Let's make sure that joy keeps showing up. And so that smile light up for him and gravitate people to him, and ultimately lift a lot of people up as he went through it. So you had the strength, you had the smile. The last thing, and I've heard it a number of different people mention tonight, but this idea of best friend ever, cheerleader, the support side of Evan Chambers was off the charts. And it didn't matter who it was, he was connecting the clubhouse. Brought Americans, brought Latins together, brought different cultures together. He was that glue in the clubhouse. He was the connector that brought people together. But the cool thing, again, I think, is you start going deeper with Evan Chambers. It wasn't just the support, the encouragement, the optimism. There was a challenge to him. He brought you higher. He brought you with him to raise the standard. His standard was high. He was pursuing excellence, and he wanted to bring people with him. It wasn't out front. It wasn't in the center of the clubhouse jumping on a chair. But it was walking alongside people and continue to challenge people to go higher. We would do different challenges with our guys, and Evan always stood out as he went through that because the standard was high. And so he definitely supported, he definitely encouraged, but he also challenged along the way. And I think if you think about love, a lot of times we go to the support and encouragement side, but there's also a challenge of holding fast and truth side, and then we did that. So as you think about that again, the strength, which ultimately was more about strength under control. You talk about the smile, which reflected joy, and then you talk about this idea of support, but also the holding fast to the standard. I think each of us try to go about, the line I would rather see a sermon than hear one. Evan was a walking sermon, and we saw love from him every day. And fast forward in August was at the last Evan Chambers night with the Marauders, and I was talking to Dr. Chambers, and we were just talking about just where he's at in life and some different things, and he asked me a question, said, hey, all your different travels, what groups you're working with, do you think that this love message would resonate? You think people want to hear this love message? And I told them, I said, whether they want to or not, they need to. And as we spent time, we talked about every championship team at the end of the year, players talk how they talk about each other as teammates, talk about loving each other. Unfortunately, around some high-speed military environments, and every single one, they talk about why they do it because they love the person on their left and on their right. And then as you talk about even corporate America really wants a tighter team, we may not call it love, but that's what we're looking for, and Evan brought that all the time. And so, honored to have been a part of Evan's life, to have Evan be a part of my life, to impact me, and ultimately to